Right now, the people of Niger are determined to free themselves. The people of Mali are determined to free themselves. The people in that part of Africa were lied to after America bombed Libya and they flooded that region with weapons and they allowed these racist, jihadist, so-called Muslims, they unleashed them on the African continent. And these so-called Muslims, these so-called jihadists, who are affiliated with Al-Qaeda, some of them call themselves Al-Shabaab, some of them call themselves Boko Haram, all of them have been secretly financed from Washington and from NATO and the Europeans to create havoc in West Africa, so that while the African governments are preoccupied trying to fight these destabilizing forces, the West can continue to take the oil, take the gold, take the uranium, take the manganese, take the diamonds. They can continue to rape the African continent. But the Africans have woken up to the scheme. And they understand now that the Americans, the French, the British, they were never there to fight terrorism, but they were there to enable the so-called terrorists. That's what they were there doing all this time. And that's why very soon they're already talking about helping the so-called rebels. They don't use the term terrorists, but there are rebel groups who now want to go to war against Niger, and they will be financed from the West. They'll be given weapons from the West. But I'm saying to you, doesn't matter what you do, you will fail today. And let me end on this. Russia and Vladimir Putin, before it became the Russian Federation, it was the Soviet Union. And during our struggle for liberation on the continent of Africa, it was the Soviet Union. It was the Chinese who helped to train many of our liberation fighters. It was the Russians, the Soviet Union, where we could go to Moscow and go and study how to fight military wars. It was the Russians and the Chinese who gave us our Kalashnikov. It was the Russians and the Chinese. And even though some of our puppet leaders pretend that they've got short memories, many of the new generation of leaders coming up, we remember who was our friend then and who is our friend now. And so the West is very upset. Oh, looks like Wagner, the musicians from Russia are going to go into Africa. Wagner, yeah, that's right, Wagner is going to fight. Wagner is going to help the Africans following the tradition. Wagner, the Russians, are going to help the Africans to liberate themselves from the imperialist